from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook world, digital world of sorts. I've got a special guest today. Guys can't tell the man on the screen that's like right under me right there, right? That's Mr. George Finney. He's the CISO at SMU, but he's got a new book out, which we're going to be talking about, Project Zero Trust. He's also got one of my favorite books, I think, Well Aware. And Well Aware was your first book, right, George?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so book number 2, really excited about it. Thank you for everyone tuning in this morning. Packed show, so we're going to get right into it. So shout outs to follow. But it's great to be back. Yesterday was Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. I've atoned for all my sins. I can start sinning again until next year. That's the beauty of being Jewish, right? You get to one day, you starve yourself, and you don't eat, you don't drink for 25 hours. You're in constant prayer, and then you can start sinning again the next day, I guess.
Is that like the purge?
It's kind of like the purge of your sins, right? It's the purge of your sins. And so I did that yesterday. And what a day it was. I got to tell you, you feel cleansed though when you don't eat for like 25, 26 hours until the first thing you put in your mouth is like the most sugary thing you could possibly get your hands on, like a Starburst or like something like a really sweet piece of cake. Either way, we're here today, Thursday, October 6th, 2022, folks. Big show. I've got my cup of coffee. I know George is in a hotel, so I don't think you've got coffee available yet.
Not yet.
But as tradition would say, my double espresso, coffee cup cheers, gang, and let's get into these stories. The espresso will get you. It's too hot, man. It's too hot. That's what happens when I make it like in the middle. If I don't make it like before I go live, then wait to make it, then it'll stay hot the whole show. All right, so first story of the day is hundreds of Microsoft SQL servers have been backdoored with a new malware. According to researchers, Maggie control through SQL query, forcing administrator to log into other SQL servers and doubling a bridgehead into the server's network environment. So the backdoor was discovered by German analyst Johann Einboss, I think, and Axel Wauer of DCSO Cytec Telemetry. DCSO Cytec and telemetry data showing that Maggie is more prevalent in South Korea, India, Vietnam, China, Russia, Thailand, Germany, and the US. Mind you, if you kind of start ticking away the boxes of who it doesn't impact, you can kind of start pointing your finger at who's behind it. So the Maggie commands, the analysis of the malware revealed that it's disguised as an extended stored procedure, which is a DLL. So it's SQL Maggie antivirus. It's running under that. And it's digitally signed by DeepSoft, a company that appears to be based in South Korea. Extended stored procedure files extend the functionality of the SQL queries by using an API that accepts remote user arguments and responds when unstructured data. And you can kind of see that here in front of you, by the way. So the report says that a variety of commands supported by Maggie allow querying for system information, executing programs, interacting with files and folders, and enabling remote desktop services. The attackers could append arguments to these commands, and Maggie even offers usage instructions for the supported arguments in some cases. The bridge itself is there at this time. Some details remain unknown, like the post-infection use of Maggie and how the malware is planted in the servers in the first place, as well as who's behind these attacks. So we'll keep our eyes on this one. Iranian hackers are targeting enterprise Android users with a new RatMilad spyware. Zimborium is warning of an Iranian hacking group using a new piece of Android spyware in a broad campaign that has targeted enterprise users. The first spyware sample that was observed was using the VPN and phone number spoofing app TextMe to hide itself. The mobile security firm also identified a live RatMilad sample distributed through a numerant, a variant of TextMe. According to the company, the Iranian-based hacker group named AppMilad is distributing the phone spoofing app through links on social media and various messaging services, luring intended victims into sideloading it on their devices. The malicious actors have also developed a product website advertising the app to socially engineer victims into believing it is legitimate. Once the application's been installed, the user is granted permission to access enough services, and the RatMilad spyware is sideloaded on the device, starts collecting information. The broad range of permissions the malware asks for is to allow it access to device data, including MAC address, precise location, user information, which includes phone calls, contacts, SMS messages, media, and files. Furthermore, the attackers can access the device camera and microphone to record video and audio and take pictures. It's identified a Telegram channel. For those who don't know what's going on in Iran, in case you've been living under a rock for the last 2 weeks, Iran's in the midst of some sort of additional revolution. I mean, it appears like the government there might hold. But I've seen videos this morning of students ripping Khamenei and Raisi as pictures off the wall, young students taking their hijab off and flipping off those pictures. That kind of revolt, that young, might bring about a regime change in that country and might free those people once and for all. Since 1979, Iran has been under an Islamic dictatorship, essentially. And so the people there are yearning for freedom, and this might just be it. So they're probably using this to target users across the world who are supporting the groups there, including through apps where they don't trust and they think the government's got a backdoor in it. So this one isn't happening on Twitter, folks. This is really happening on different apps and not on Twitter. A 19-year-old hacker has been arrested for using leaked Optus breach data in an SMS scam. The 19-year-old teen from Sydney has been arrested for allegedly attempting to leverage the data leaked following the Optus breach last month to extort victims. And so it shows you just how easy it is for these young. That's the thing about security, right, George? There's a line of ethics that we expect from people, and sometimes that line is blurred by people who think it's cool to do this.
Well, and this kid, unfortunately, didn't even do the hack, right? He was just leveraging the data that dumped by the hack.
Yep.
So just to make money, which what 19-year-old kid doesn't want to get a quick payday.
And this one's gonna sting most likely because it's criminal charges, and Australia is taking this like really serious. I mean, they're really like Australia is the government there is just going up in ends. I mean, I've been reading some of the discussion stuff they've been talking about security. They're like, you guys are going to ruin your private public relationship if you go down this road, and then pretty bad. And finally, and I think what is, I don't know if to say shocking, but to say concerning if you're a CISO. So former Uber CISO Joe Sullivan has been found guilty over the data breach cover-up from 2016. So the month-long trial concluded from many people testifying. The jury found Sullivan guilty of both charges: obstructing an FTC investigation of a data breach at Uber and deliberately hiding a felony from authorities. Sullivan, who was most recently the CISO over at Cloudflare, faces up to 8 years in prison, maximum of 5 years for obstruction of justice, and a maximum of 3 years for the prison charge. I think they mean the deliberately hiding a felony charge is my guess. According to the Times, the jury of 6 men and 6 women took more than 19 hours to reach the verdict. How other people aren't charged in this one, George, is mind-boggling because, there were more executives that kind of signed off on this.
I actually couldn't sleep last night, thinking about this. This is really scary. And Sullivan is not an unsophisticated person.
Right.
He's a former federal prosecutor. That means he's an attorney. That means he at least in theory knew some of the challenges, whereas a lot of other CISOs. I'm an attorney, by the way, full disclosure. But yeah, the other folks involved in this case, or other CISOs out there, right? If you're looking for takeaways, man, I think the world just got a lot more complicated for us.
Yeah, it's almost makes it so that when you're going through a incident now, it doesn't matter what the board or anyone else recommends. You should just, and by the way, I think that's what brought Mudge forward, right? I think Mudge saw what's going on with Joe and said, I'm not going to be the next scapegoat.
Wow.
And this was even before Joe was convicted. I would not be surprised if once Elon Musk completes his acquisition of Twitter, based on what I saw happen over the last 24, 36 hours or so, that there's a report of additional data breaches that have gone on that have been underreported, or ransomware attacks, or whatever the case may have been within Twitter during that time period. And Mudge essentially was like, I'm not going to get charged with obstruction of justice, or lying to shareholders, which has significant implications to someone's career and livelihood.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really interesting point about Mudge. And, at the time you heard a lot of people saying, well, what else is new? Right? I mean, this is what we deal with every day in security. And again, I think, it's going to be really challenging for us as CISOs moving forward to navigate.
Yeah, I as a practitioner like you are, let me tell you, George, this one, like, it didn't have you sleeping. It's got me rethinking. Who's the next CISO that's gonna, we've always known the S isn't for security, it's for scapegoat, right? But here's the ultimate scapegoat in Joe, and hopefully Joe doesn't get any jail time on this one. My hope, and one of my rallying cries within the community, is that we start writing letters to the sentencing judge, just explaining how difficult it is for CISOs, and probably the position Joe is in, and hopefully that'll make sure that he at least can stay free, even if he may never get a job as a CISO again. At least he doesn't have to spend time in prison, because he doesn't belong there. I'm sorry, I don't think he belongs there. That's my personal opinion, though, George.
Man, I know folks. I don't know Joe, but I know folks who did, and really think that he's an upstanding guy, right? Very different kind of picture is painted in the media about it. And man, I haven't read the briefs, but again, if you're a CISO at a publicly traded company, you need to be thinking about protecting yourself, right? It's so hard for people just to understand the things you say in security, right? The technical hurdles to understand us, and just the he said she said that you read in the article is really concerning.
It is. It's extremely concerning, and there's that. So our final piece of the day is George's brand new book. It dropped yesterday. You can find it on Amazon. The link's in the show notes, everyone. Go get it now. It is in stock as of this morning in Amazon. And you can get it in Prime, by the way, meaning you don't have to wait too long to get it. You can have it at your doorstep by Saturday. It's called Project Zero Trust. It's a story about strategy for aligning security and the business. George, tell us about the book.
Well, first, I love the audiobook because the narrator was an actor on The Walking Dead. That's kind of awesome, right? But I'm so lucky to be able to work with John Kindervag, who created Zero Trust, and so he gave me all of his notes. I use his design methodology. He's the only human that's been consulting on Zero Trust for the last 15 years. He has a Zero Trust maturity model, so it's a fictional story about a company who's breached, and they stand up a Zero Trust project before their new product comes out, in order to make sure it's secure. Similar to the Phoenix project in that regard, but it's about a team. It's about the people that come together, and I think that's the most important part, right? Who needs to know about Zero Trust? It's not just for us security nerds. Everybody in IT has to play a role, and the Zero Trust, I think, is simple enough to understand for everyone to be a part of that. But again, Zero Trust is confusing to a lot of people, and in part because of the mixed messages we're getting from all of the different vendors out there. I was at a roundtable for CISOs a few months back. 15 CISOs in the room, 16 different definitions of what Zero Trust is. Right. One CISO actually changed his mind and had a different definition. And you hear, I heard from one CISO that is at a Fortune 500 company that He thought that zero trust was just SD-WAN, right? Oh my gosh, no. The zero trust isn't a tool; it's a strategy. And what is a strategy for? A strategy is for helping bring people together towards a common goal, right? That's what zero trust is. We're wanting to prevent bad things from happening, and there just aren't other strategies out there when it comes to running a security program.
Yeah, I'm excited. I actually ordered the book this morning. And then when I'm in Dallas next, I'm going to stop by the SMU campus and get it signed by George. Everyone, I'll probably do a video of it just so that we can post it on here as an excerpt. But go get the book. It's on Amazon. Project Zero Trust. Gift it to someone, your CIO, your CTO, someone who you want them to understand what zero trust is all about. I think that's a great way to do. It's a great way to take these books. By the way, I gift like Roger Grimes books like no one's business, right? Like Data Driven Defense. I gift that book to anyone in my organization that goes, I want to get a better idea of why you're making these decisions in security. I gift them that book. I just order it on Amazon. I've got like 10 of copies that I ordered several months ago, and I've just handed them off to my board members. I've handed them off to people within the organization to kind of take a look at, read, and kind of understand how we want to drive it. And this is no different because zero trust. I did a survey about 3 years ago on LinkedIn, George, and I said zero trust, an actual security strategy or a buzzword, and it was a 50-50 tie.
Ooh, that hurts. Man, think about what else is out there in terms of security strategy, right? Defense in depth, that's not a strategy, right?
No.
we call it expense in depth, right? Compliance, that's not security. That's it's a strategy if your goal is to just check the box. So right, I think really security can't be a silo anymore. It can't be something that somebody else does. Everybody in IT has to be doing security. Everybody in the organization needs to play a role. And again, we've got to all get on the same page and focus on the goal, which can't be firefighting, right? We've got to fix the problems in our organizations that are causing these vulnerabilities. Zero trust can help in every area. So in the book we talk about identity or your ERP systems or cloud or how to do zero trust and align it with your SOC. How do you do training exercises or tabletops? So there's a great appendix at the book with my tabletop. So the book ends with the tabletop exercise on practicing all of the things that they did throughout the book. And it's a fun read. Lots of pop culture references, and hopefully people really love it.
Well, I know you're a Star Wars fan, George, a big one.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
I remember the last podcast you and I did when Well Aware came out. You had the whole Star Wars background behind you and all the comics. So seeing you in a hotel room just doesn't do the same justice to your other background.
I actually started selling some of my paintings.
Folks, that's it for our show today. George, thank you for coming on. Go get Project. Yeah, you did auction them off, right? Because I remember seeing I was going to come to CXO in Dallas a few months ago where I knew they were auctioning off some of your stuff. I just couldn't make it because I was in town, but I was my schedule was just back to back that day.
Oh man, I'm just so lucky to be able to share with the community all of the stuff I've got going on. So I totally appreciate all the support and go out there and get the book.
Yeah, go out there. Project Zero Trust, links in the comments, folks. Go to Amazon, order it today. Gift it to someone who you think could help you push zero trust across the finish line in your org. That's it for our show today. We'll be back Monday with a whole lot more next week, folks. Until then, please stay cyber safe and have a great weekend. Thanks, y'all.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.
We're still on broadcast. It's still ending. it's still wrapping up. It's going to be funny because whoever sticks around till the very end of the intro might get this.